America. Thank you.
The question was, what will be done about Afghanistan as the person who's asking's grandson is going to be deployed in 40-something days?
Let me say a couple of things in response. One is, when our men and women are in harm's way, I expect the President of the United States to address the nation on a regular basis and explain what's happening and why they're there, what the mission is, what its purpose is, how we'll know when it's completed. Other presidents have done this. We haven't heard this president do this. This is something he ought to do time and time again so the people of America know where we stand. The idea that we're all here thinking about what's happening at home, I understand that. But we also want to recognize that there are people overseas that are fighting for us, who are responding to the call of the Commander-in-Chief, and he ought to be reporting to their parents and their communities and the people of America. That's one thing I'll do. Number two, to send men and women into harm's way is quite a high hurdle. You don't just do that at the drop of a hat, or anytime you see something you don't like in the world, you don't say, okay, we're going to send in our troops. You recognize that to send in American troops would require a significant American interest at stake. That's number one. Number two, before you send them in, you'd have to understand and communicate to the American people what the mission is, what we want to accomplish, why we're there, and then how we would know when the mission was completed. And then you make sure that you provide for them all of the resources to protect them and to make sure they're successful in their mission. And then finally, you'd have to communicate to the American people what's going to happen after we go and how we're going to go. All these things have to be communicated. I wish we'd had that from the beginning and had it all the way along the line. I can tell you this. When I become Commander-in-Chief, if I'm so lucky, I will address the American people about these issues, and with regards to Afghanistan, I will do everything in my power to transition from our military to their military as soon as possible, bring our men and women home, and do so in a way consistent with our mission, which is to keep Afghanistan from being overrun by a new entity that would allow Afghanistan to be a launching point for terror again like it was on 9/11. Thank you, sir. Paul, please.
Sir, when you vote, send men and women to war, like Charlie and I did after 9/11, that's a vote you take very seriously, very solemnly. And when you give the military a specific mission, and the military tells you, here's what we need to complete this mission to keep our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines safe, you give them what they ask for. It's very important. I was in Helmand Province with the Marines in December, learning and listening to our Marines who are fighting there. And it is amazing. There is not an army or troops that hold a candle to the American military. It is. And the point that Mitt was making that I think needs to be punctuated is the president, in my opinion, has made decisions that are more political in nature than military in nature. A drawdown occurring in the middle of a fighting season when we're still giving our military the same mission. We don't want to do something that would put them in jeopardy. We want them to fulfill the mission in the safest way possible. And that to me means you make decisions based on what's right for the country, for our national security, and let our men and women serving in our armed forces do their job in the safest possible way, period, end of story, elections notwithstanding. That's what leadership is all about, especially when you're sending men and women into harm's way.